Thank you for stopping by. This is Jeffrey Weiss, your political activist, keeping you informed of local and world events. Today we discuss Joe Biden, the only Democrat Donald Trump can beat in 2020. Do not make the same mistake that was made in 2016. During the Democratic campaign, Bernie Sanders was beating Donald Trump by 16 points in the polls, while Hillary Clinton was dead even. Yet in spite of that, the DNC threw all its weight behind Clinton. This when everyone knew she had a coliseum worth of baggage. All the DNC money, advertising, and endorsements went to Hillary. We all know the rest of the story. Now we are coming up on 2020. While Joe Biden is beating Donald Trump head up in the polls, anyone who has followed Joe Biden's less than illustrious career knows he has a stadium's worth of baggage. Not many voters are aware of his record, but I assure you Donald Trump is. Trump has even goaded the Democrats into believing he fears Biden when in fact Trump believes he has the best chance of defeating him than any other Democrat. Now for the uninitiated, let's review his record. Joe Biden has been a yes man for his entire career. Rarely has he been the one making policy, but a follower, and often on the wrong side of history. He lied about his education. He formed ties with Jesse Helms and Strom Thurmond, two of the biggest racists to ever walk the hallowed halls of the Senate. Together, they sought to limit desegregation by opposing federally mandated busing, which denied the possibility for equal education to minorities. Edward Brooke, the sole black senator at the time, said Biden's vote was the greatest symbolic defeat for civil rights since 1964. Biden pioneered drug legislation that mandated harsh penalties for buying and selling crack cocaine, which led to the age of mass incarceration of black Americans. In fact, Biden said, "Whenever people hear the words drug and crime, I want them to think of me." Along with segregationist Jesse Helms, Biden sponsored the 1984 Comprehensive Control Act, which, among other repressive measures, abolished parole for federal prisoners and cut the amount of time by which sentences could be reduced for good behavior. Along with more than once, Biden prided himself with working with Strom Thurmond, a racist, bigot, white supremacist, when they proposed legislation mandating a 5-year sentence with no parole for anyone caught with a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than a quarter. Biden fought for legislation that allowed for the confiscation of property of people only suspected of drug crimes, even if they were neither charged nor convicted. Biden said, Roe v. Wade went too far. I don't think a woman should have the right to say what should happen to her body. He supported the Hyde Amendment that called for prohibiting all federal funding for abortions. His personal life is deeply troubling, with dozens of women coming forward with accusations of unwanted touching. With an admitted sexual predator in the White House, Democrats must insist on holding any potential candidate to a higher standard, a standard Joe Biden does not meet. If that were not enough to disqualify him, there's the fact that he repeatedly voted to restrict abortion access. Then his derogatory, demeaning treatment of Anita Hill during the Clarence Thomas 1991 Supreme Court confirmation hearings. Biden refused to hear from two other witnesses who corroborated Anita Hill's testimony of sexual predation. Biden made his home state of Delaware a freewheeling tax haven for corporations that incorporated there, able to avoid much taxation. Biden campaigned to stop allowing for debtors' relief through bankruptcy. And while Biden helped corporations by limiting debtors' access to bankruptcy, his son Hunter was a well-remunerated consultant at credit card giant MBNA. Biden voted to repeal Glass-Steagall, the bill that limited banking regulations and allowed banks to gamble with depositors' money, which of course led to the 2008 banking crisis. Biden voted for the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Obama put Vice President Biden in charge of Iraq. Biden chose Nouri al-Maliki as Prime Minister, even after he was warned numerous times by numerous people of Nouri al-Maliki's background, a man who persecuted the Sunni tribes, which led them into the arms of ISIS. Further, during al-Maliki's reign, there was widespread corruption, leading to as much as $500 billion being siphoned off. In 2014, while the U.S. was setting its policy for Ukraine, Joe Biden got his son Hunter appointed to the board of Burisma, a giant Ukrainian natural gas company that had been accused by the UK government of stealing at least $23 million from Ukrainian taxpayer money. But of course, Joe would never allow his son's position, where he earned millions, to influence the foreign policy of the U.S. toward Ukraine. In his first run for president, Joe Biden plagiarized a number of world leaders including Robert and John Kennedy. And his tough on crime sentencing guidelines have filled our jails with non-violent offenders who now work for slave wages for the largest transnational corporations or are sent to solitary confinement. If elected, he would be the oldest president to ever hold the office. The country seems poised to elect a woman president. That is the future. Joe Biden, an old, white, conservative man with a lot of baggage, is the past. There's more, but you get the point. Joe Biden will be eviscerated by Donald Trump, leading to a second term and more likely control of both houses of government for the Republicans. If my articles interest you, please use the link to check out my website and books. Thank you very much.